Hey everyone, Stephen here from Radio Free Skaro. This is a cold open to the podcast today because literally as we press stop on the podcast that you're about to hear with Danica Leblanc and Paul Cornell, the latter doing the commentary with us for Planet of the Daleks episodes 3 and 4, Gallifrey One posted an update to the 2021 edition of the convention. The link to it will be in the show notes, but just the gist of it is that as of now, late May of 2020, they are fully intending to move ahead with planning for the 2021 convention. The hotel block will be announced in the very near future. That is the normal bit when it comes to Gallifrey One. The less normal bit is that, you know, we're at a pandemic. The U.S.-Canada border is closed, certainly, and international travel as it stands right now is pretty much a wishful notion. So for those of you, aka us, outside of the Los Angeles area, do consider waiting to book travel plans, basically, is what they're saying in the update that was posted on Saturday. So there you go. That's the gist of it. I wanted to get that in just because it would seem odd if we didn't talk about it. So there it is. We've talked about Gallifrey One. Hopefully you're all doing well. Hopefully we'll all be doing well in February 2021, that we can actually consider going to Gallifrey One in Los Angeles. But for now, let's have an episode of Radio Free Skaro. How about?
Radio Free Skaro.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Radio Free Skaro, episode number 744. It's a lot. I am Stephen in Edmonton.
Warren in Vancouver.
And Chris in Edmonton.
This episode sees us do commentaries for episodes 3 and 4 of Planet of the Daleks with guest Paul Cornell, writer of Doctor Who himself, talking about the middle two episodes of Planet of the Daleks, episode 3, of course, which is as new as old Doctor Who gets for us, really, when you think about it, because it didn't exist for the longest time, and it still feels like a new episode to me because I hadn't seen it for decades.
Well, it existed. They just never sold it as part of the package.
Yeah, because it was in black and white.
It was only in black and white.
Mm-hmm. So look forward to that as we barrel on through our Space War commentary series, which of course wraps up next week with the final 2 episodes of Planet of the Daleks. But in keeping with our theme of bringing on friends and pros and friends who are pros and people who write prose, in the case of Robert Shearman and Paul Cornell, we are bringing on friends to talk about their experiences during this global pandemic. And we've gone a little bit local here for this one. It's our good friend Danica Leblanc, ex of Dr. Hooch and one of the co-owners of Variant Edition comic store here in Edmonton. Hello, Danica.
Hello, Stephen.
You can say hello to Chris and Warren too. It's okay.
No, we're second class.
I refuse.
Good. We were having
under contract.
We were having a right old Alberta talk before the things were. It got real Alberta up in these parts before we pressed record, and indeed after we pressed record, but before we started the show. First off, congratulations, commiserations. I don't know, what do you say when you end a podcast? Are you happy that you did the Dr. Hooch podcast, or are you relieved? Like, what are your feelings at right now?
Well, okay. First off, I just want to say that it wasn't based on anything in the show.
Okay.
Obviously, I still love the show. It was more of a time and energy thing. So I had been thinking about it prior to this season. Basically, after last season, it was just getting a bit much. Because, of course, my partner Brandon and I own the business, and we were married, and we had Dr. Hooch. Like, it was so much energy to do this thing that we had started about five 5+ years ago that we had done for fun, you know, and because our logic at the beginning was, well, we're already doing this, so why don't we record it? And it was great, and I had a really good time with most of it. But it got to the point where it was another form of work. And I didn't want that. I never wanted that. Now we still keep the Twitter account because it's kind of fun and it connects us to that, like the Doctor Who fandom. And I generally retweet stuff, largely from RFS, really, because you're the ones actually paying attention to the news, and I'm just like, oh, that sounds cool. Or something really, really silly that's completely off the wall, but it's more hooch than anything. I do feel relief because I just want to enjoy the show again, and I don't want there to be any strings.
It's like Tegan. Once it stopped being fun, you just like, that's it.
Yeah.
Well, that's fine.
Yeah. I mean, I have no regrets about doing it in the first place. Like we've made some really great memories and said some really awful things on the internet. So that's out there forever.
Yeah. Hey, wait. Good thing you stopped now and like didn't start like 14 years ago and probably have said a lot of regrettable things from back in the day. Just saying.
I don't think that's ever happened to anybody.
Oh no.
No. That's why nobody in our generation will ever be elected to political office.
No, the bar is going to be so low. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Either that or everyone's going to have the same similar history. So, you know, it's like
Exactly.
everybody is culpable.
Everyone said
I hope
bad
we get to
stuff.
that point. Yeah, I hope we get to that point, like within reason, obviously. If you're being
I
like
think
a
the next
complete
pandemic will wipe
Nazi
us
or
all out.
whatever.
There's a cheery thought.
Oh, fun
stuff.
Wow, that's why I didn't say good morning to you.
That's right. And when the rest of us all fight it out on
kidding.
bicycles.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, it's been nice because I tried to get to the end of the season. I really did, and it was the third last episode of this prior season, and I just went, I can't do it anymore. Like, I have to call it. I can't even do this for 2 more weeks because it was already past the point where I didn't want to do it. You know, I wanted to just watch Doctor Who and you know, maybe have a drink, but I didn't want to have to.
Yeah.
So I didn't want Doctor Who to be work.
Yeah.
And I never do.
You don't want to have that mental association and just dread watching Doctor Who because of.
So you quit after episode 8 is interesting because that's the one that actually was shown at Gallifrey One, and like the whole of Doctor Who community like rallied around watching this episode in the auditorium on a Sunday back in the days when people gathered in auditoriums, and that was coincidentally the very episode that he says, "Nope, we're done. We're not doing a podcast about it anymore." That's alarming in a way.
And it set up the finale.
It didn't have anything. Well, it didn't have anything to do with the episode, though.
Yeah. You did like the series, though.
Oh my God, no.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no. This season was great. Yeah. There wasn't really anything that I didn't love. I thought it was actually a stronger season than prior. Because they're like last. I keep saying last season, but that was like 2 years ago now.
It's difficult.
Season
Feels
11.
like it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because Doctor Who is spread out so much, so you think like, oh, last season, but it could be like 2-3 years ago in, you know, real life time. Yeah. As it is, it's kind of wild when it even ended. Let's see. Yeah, The Timeless Children was March 1st, which, I mean, considering how time goes right now, it could be 7 years ago.
Right. Yeah.
Like, where were we March 1st? Like, it was such a different world.
It was. Yeah. Like
anyway.
Like 2 weeks later, we were in lockdown. It's amazing, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Don't even get me started about the non-essential business closure. It was hard. Well, actually, we probably will.
I will actually.
That,
no. I'm going to go against you and actually talk about that because you are a business owner at Variant Edition
Yes.
here in Edmonton. Where we've talked about it before. It's more of a bookstore than a comic shop. You've sort of been like morphing it in and out and making it into this great little store with great shelves. That are constantly rearranged and such. But so what was it like for you then as a business owner to have to sort of like, okay, I guess we're shutting down. Now we are shut down. And now as we record this, we're just now beginning to open up again before we perhaps inevitably shut down once again in the fall. I'm not sure. What has your experience has been here?
Okay. Well, March was, it seemed like everything was kind of normal up until that day. When they gave like a few kinds of businesses were closed before mine. Like health services, like any hairdressers, massage places, anything that you had to be near someone. They were shut down earlier, so that made sense to me. And then when it got to the non-essentials, which of course, I as a bookstore and having no groceries or medicines, I am non-essential, which is I get. It was normal busy that day, and then we closed at the end of the day, and then the next day was so different. Nobody was allowed in the store. Excuse me. I kept the door locked. Brandon and I started, at the beginning, we started switching days off. And days off didn't really mean much when we were at home because we still did. When I was home, I caught up on the reading just so I could know more of the product, and we were doing the daily videos, kind of a 15-minute check-in because we weren't seeing people every week, every day, whatever. They could still see us. And at that point, the first, early April, in the comics industry, something was changing every day, sometimes a couple times a day. So the daily videos were very helpful, I think. But I think we did about 2 weeks of that, and I was going stir crazy because I felt so disconnected to what was happening at the store, just being there every second day. So I requested to be there basically full time. And so we had shortened our hours. We were only open 12 to 6, but I worked there Tuesday to Saturday. And that really, really helped my mental capacity of having a routine, being in the store. Brandon takes care of the website and a lot of the online stuff. So he can work from anywhere. So he was good at home. He did that. We basically started, we increased the things that we already had. We were prepared for this in a way that I didn't expect. Last fall, we had we had launched our website, our new website with a web store. It was, we worked with a local company called Kickpoint, and they're fabulous. They made, we had many meetings with them last year, and we talked with them about design. And so that is why the website looks that good and it behaves well and all the links are, working. Right. And since then we've been adding product. We've always wanted to have a curated web store, and it still is. We don't have every single item because there are thousands, but we have been adding things that people are asking for, or interesting things if it's in media, Lock and Key is on Netflix. So if I hope I'm not lying, but we should have that one on the site. If we don't, I'll talk to Brandon about it.
Right.
Before I make him look bad on the internet,
right?
Like I usually do.
You've got a day before this comes out, Brandon. So there's your leeway time right there.
I'll probably look it up after this and go, oh no.
Good. Okay.
That's okay. He's got it. He's got it under control. But yeah, we've been adding products pretty much every week, most days. And so we had online sales. Brandon had already been doing deliveries, in-city deliveries, for about 2 years because we have some low mobility customers. Mm-hmm. And so we started with that and then kind of spanned out to people who were maybe like on the other side of the city, or they couldn't get out to our store. Excuse me. So that was already there. That was already in place. What we did was upped that from Thursday nights to Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday afternoons, because most people are off work. And so we could switch it to the daytime.
Right.
As it is, we've changed back since the reopening to 2 days a week, because we're back to being closed on Tuesdays because our comic shipment is back, but we'll get to that. And yeah, like and social media. Oh my gosh. We have a fantastic base of social media attention. We have people who connect with us every day. And so we just amped that up. Mm-hmm. And those three things, I think, are why we are still here and why we're still doing strong.
Did you at some point during, like, when it all started, I've said a few times that I feel like that first week of lockdown felt longer than all the weeks after combined, just because it was so unknown. We're just so unused to sort of like why we can't go to things anymore. Everything is shut down. Like, was there a part where you thought, Eep, are we going to be able to continue this business the way things are potentially going right now?
I knew we'd be okay at first. Mm-hmm. I was concerned about the long run. If something like that had gone on for 6 months, say,
right.
I don't know. I think we would have been okay if we didn't have the brick and mortar at some point and like only did online. That's not really the goal of the business. But if I had to pivot that much, I think we would have. Mm-hmm. Now, this is not saying, yes, this would have happened in April. It might have happened in, September or December or whatever. If the lockdown went a year, I mean, most businesses couldn't withstand that. So I think without a brick and mortar location, we would be fine. But that wouldn't be us. Mm-hmm. Not just we, but the comics industry is based on community, and it's based on having a fun, safe space that you can come in and enjoy reading and enjoy talking. A lot of people, we're their only outlet for comics talk. Whether their partner doesn't enjoy it in the same way, or their kids are hitting their preteen years and they just think you're really lame for liking comics. Because we've had that. I'll have kids come in for years and then they hit like 12 and then they decide they're too cool. But I know they'll be back with their own comics in a few years, so it's fine. I know we could have made it happen. And, given what the second wave looks like, whenever that happens, it may still. Mm-hmm. But I would like to have IRL location in the future, no matter where we are. Even if it's like a really tiny pop-up, I still want to be able to see people.
Right.
So with trying to keep the business going, were you guys particularly affected by Diamond stopping distribution?
Not as much as other shops.
Okay. Diamond, for those who don't know, is kind of like the big comic distributor.
Not just the big one; they're the monopoly, basically.
Yeah. Diamond is the only one that you can get single issue comics from. Now, a lot of stores, that is their one distributor. So when Diamond went down, they were hooped. No new product for 2 months at this point. And for a lot of stores in the States, they were forced to shelter at home. I had, colleagues, peers in the States that couldn't even do curbside they couldn't go to their stores, even if it was just one of them. Like some states were really, really strict about that, which is fair given their numbers. But I was really scared for a lot of people I know online on Facebook. And there was definitely this embarrassment of riches, the fact that I could still even open the door to talk to someone on curbside. Like that was a privilege. So for us, I was in the store 6 hours a day, 5 times a week. And yeah, some days it was so lonely. It's such a big store to be one person in for hours.
All right.
And I caught up on some podcasts, I won't lie. I needed that background. I really, really did. And we were still making sales. Like we had a really good April.
Good.
Obviously, I'm not going to beat last year's numbers. I'm not trying to. Early April, Brandon and I sat down and we figured out what was our break even on a daily basis. Like every day we had to make X amount. And if we could do that, we did that. And it was probably, I don't even know, like 10% of what our usual break even was. So in a way, not having diamond invoices was very good. A lot of people complained, but I'm thankful for that because all of the stores, no matter where they were, would have had shipment with A, no way to pay for it, and B, no customers to buy it. So the diamond break was good. Yeah, like it's obviously detrimental.
Yeah.
But it was a good move for the industry. And even now, some stores are not allowed to be back open and single issues are coming out. So you can't wait for everybody to be open again because it could be months. I understand where they're coming from. And I think any decision that really most industries are making right now is going to be hard, and it's going to be tough for everybody, but you almost can't wait for it. Within reason, obviously. You know, we're not going to like the beaches and just, you know, randomly licking people. Like, just don't be a jerk.
I want to just point out public service announcement. Don't lick people anyway, even when it's safe to do so. You know,
or door handles like in Charlie Brooker's.
Yeah.
Sorry, I know it's been my terrible example for like a month or two because I'm like, what's the stupidest thing someone could do right now and also before?
Yeah, coming up.
So don't randomly lick people.
No licking people. Consensual at the very least. People.
Yes.
Even then.
Door handle consent?
Have you noticed? I mean, here in Alberta, we've been open for the past week and a half now. I guess it opened up just before last long weekend. Have you noticed a noticeable uptick in foot traffic at the actual store?
Foot traffic, yes. Sales, no.
Oh. Good. So people just sort of wander in, have a chat. Hey, it's good that you're back. Okay, well, bye.
Let me just spread the virus and then
I understand why. So it's a combination of the fact that our first shipment from this week was very small. So a lot of people didn't have something in their file. So to their credit, they checked in and saw, do I need to pay for something because I would like to see you here in 6 months. And they missed the comic store. I had people... when I had curbside and it was still really cold, I let them basically in the foyer. As far as I looked at the rules, they were not clear. So I figured if they're not like wondering about the store, that's still kind of curbside. So whatever. Cause like it was the last week of March was really cold and I started to feel very guilty about keeping people on the sidewalk. So I started letting people in and I'm like, just stay, near the door and I'll get you your stuff. It's fine. Oh gosh. Okay. So a lot of people during that time, commented about how they missed the smell. Like the smell of a bookstore is something that cannot be recreated. And that was really, really meaningful to me. because of we are a very family-friendly store, and of course everyone's keeping their children safe and inside. So there's some people's kids I haven't seen in a couple months, and like nerd kids are the greatest little humans. And so I miss a lot of my little friends, you know, and that's completely selfish of me, and I am not gonna force the issue, but it will be really nice when I can have kids back in the store.
Mm-hmm. Well, I hope those days are not far off, and I hope they're safe as well. That's the thing.
Yeah.
I mean, I think we've been kind of lucky in Edmonton. We have very relatively few cases, active cases here in Edmonton compared to the rest of the province and indeed the rest of the country. But that is no reason to say, well, we're perfectly fine. Let's just throw off the shackles and let's go. Let us go and go to movie theaters again and lick popcorn and put it on the floor for others to lick. That's not what we're going to do in this city.
Oh my God.
We've gone down a very strange road of licking things, and I'm sorry, but
I'm sorry I started that. I opened that door.
that's all right. That's fine. That's fine. Well, I'm glad. Where we can give the website again at the end of the segment. Where can we find the comic shop online?
Sure. We are at variantedmonton.com, and that's actually all of our social media as well. We are on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at variantedmonton, and pretty much all the information is on the website, but we do keep social media up to date pretty much on a daily basis, really. More so than ever is how we've been connecting with people and how we've been selling things. I actually started putting up shelfies on Instagram because I knew people wanted to browse. Mm-hmm. But of course, you can't get to the store. So I chose, I would take a picture of an entire shelf so someone could still look through and discover something. And that's been huge, both for sales and for people going, I miss your shelves. I just want to see them. And, I need that book. So yeah, I mean, yeah, it's the sales have been great. Like the last week was a combination of small shipment. It was pouring rain for a couple days, so I completely understand why people didn't leave their house if they didn't have to. And just people are still cautious, and I'm okay with that. Like I want everyone to be safe. I'm not gonna demand everyone come down and spend like $300 at the store like tomorrow. I don't want that. Mm-hmm. I want customers in 6 months who are alive and well, and hearing about the after effects of COVID, it sounds very scary, so yes, we might not die from it if we have a good enough immune system, but it will last in your body forever. Like they keep finding out these horrifying things about it. So it's gonna be a while before, science and medicine knows more about it, but just it's gonna ruin, like, as far as we know, there's like something about blood clots and people dying from that, and there's lung stuff. Like I don't want that.
No.
I know, it's scary. Yeah. So,
although I would like to see a protest with science knows more about it on a sign for once.
I would like that. I would like that.
Yes, I know. But this is Alberta. We don't believe in science.
Well, not just Alberta. There are some idiots here too.
There are.
Oh, yeah, they're everywhere. And they're loud. They're on the internet.
They are. Just like they were in the ice base in 4000 in the Ice Warriors. There's my Doctor Who tie-in. I tied it into Doctor Who somehow.
Well done.
There you go.
Thank you very much. So have you been watching the tweetalongs at all, Danica? There's a lot of them. There's like 3 this week alone.
Yeah. I've been checking in after the fact. Mm-hmm. I know basically what's been happening, but I haven't been doing it live. A lot of the days I am at work. I think there have been a couple on the Sunday, but I'm actually playing D&D every 2 weeks now instead of every 4 because we're doing it on over Discord. So sometimes I have D&D, which is awesome. And it's been a huge like mental help just to be able to talk with my D&D friends every 2 weeks. Like that's a joy. Anyway, play D&D. It's great.
That's what Erica does.
That's my recommendation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They've been doing they've been continuing apace. We had Peter Harness on. Was it last week we had Peter Harness on? I can't remember. 2 weeks ago about the Zygon invasion and version. Since then, there have been the fires of Pompeii. James Moran did a live tweet of that with a couple of other people in there. I can't remember who else. Tracy Child, I think, was one of them. As we record this on the Saturday, An Adventure in Space and Time, which is sort of put forward by the Radio Times with Mark Gatiss and Sasha Dewan, has sort of been picked up by Emily Cook, and she's sort of like helping spearhead that. Just as we're recording this, the Doctors Assemble thing came out, which we haven't even watched. So all we can say is there's a Doctors Assemble thing because it just happened for us. And then Listen also happened with Stephen Moffat and Douglas McKinnon this past Wednesday. And I imagine by the time this episode of Radio Free Skaro comes out, the next tweet along will have been announced and will have subsequently happened by the time our next episode happens.
Yeah.
Maybe even two of them.
I mean, I did watch the Fires of Pompeii after the fact, and it's still an amazing episode. It's still really meaningful and heartfelt and very sweet. So it's actually I caught up with James Moran's tweets in the hashtag. I was kind of just peeking through. And then I was like, yeah, I need to watch that tonight. That was a good one.
Yeah.
And so because I have the powers of Crave, I could do that. And then after that, I went, Brandon was there too. We watched that. And then we went over to BritBox because I caved and finally got that a month or two ago.
Nice.
Good choice. I didn't actually do it for Doctor Who. I did it for a gardening crime comedy-ish called Rosemary and Thyme, which everyone should watch.
Oh, I've heard of that.
It's amazing. Oh, yeah. It's these two middle-aged women who basically solve garden mysteries, but also someone usually gets murdered there, and they solve that too. So it's like low stakes. Like people are getting murdered, but because they're usually like rich and white and they have like garden pastures, you really don't care.
Yeah, they deserve it, is what you're saying.
It's like Murder, She Wrote.
Bury them in the garden.
Yeah, it's like Midsummer Murders.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's great, yeah. And there's like, I'm going to call it garden porn because there's just beautiful English gardens everywhere. And eventually the weather, of course, in Britain got so bad because their summers are like 2 minutes. They go to Italy because, of course, they do.
Of course.
And there are rich white people there who don't know the language, and they go to Paris, and there are rich white people there who don't know the language. It's just so awful.
Now they can make new series and transition the show to going to these places but needing visas.
Yeah. Yes, with
my
they can
God.
add some bureaucracy into the mix.
Oh man, yeah. Between Brexit and the pandemic, British drama is going to be just like completely different in the next 2 years.
Yeah, that's what we needed in television is more paperwork.
Love it.
Hey, it
Bureaucracy.
worked for the Phantom Menace. Or
Yeah.
didn't.
That
Work for the Sandbaggers too, actually. Which is also on BritBox, by the way. The Phantom Events is hosting a upcoming event, or it already happened. I don't know.
It's a series, Stephen. It's a
series of events.
time is meaningless, Stephen.
It is.
Time is meaningless.
I know this now. They're hosting the Unsung Heroes of Doctor Who, which is like right up my alley. It's on a host of guests, a series of guests, including a very supporting artist, production assistants from the classic series and the modern series. Some people who've like Alan Spaulding, the designer of Revelation of the Daleks. When do you get to talk to the designer of Revelation of the Daleks? You don't, except here. So that's kind of neat, actually, because I love behind the scenes stuff. So that's all starting live on weeknights on starting the 25th of May. Which is the real Star Wars Day for those people who celebrate such things, because that was the anniversary of the original release. 43 years ago, by the way. The original Star Wars will have come out 43 years ago this coming week. So, good job. Feeling old, everyone. This whole episode, this is exciting, actually, too, because Peter Davison posted a pic of him recording some Big Finish audio a couple weeks ago.
Beautiful.
He was in just a normal closet and stuff. So, what is it like? There was like a blanket hovering over him, and people were saying, "What's going on here? This is like a dump." And so, what did he do? Peter Davison, or someone related to Peter Davison, decided to put up like Tardis interior wallpaper and a police box on the outside of the door of his little makeshift home recording studio. It's brilliant. Peter Davison is amazing.
It's his closet under the stairs, basically.
Yeah, it is, and
Without
it's awesome.
Yeah.
It's
Did you see the little GIF or video that someone sent that basically makes the recording studio appear as the TARDIS, like it materializes with the sound?
No, I didn't see that.
If you scroll down a little bit under that tweet, it's so sweet. It's a guy named Philip, and he says, "Does this help?" Yeah,
there it is. Right.
It's very nice because at the beginning there's just a flat wall, right? Yeah. And then that picture appears.
There it is. I just saw it now there too. That is, that's lovely. Good old Peter Davison. He's amazing. This whole episode has been building up to this moment, though. This very moment. 6 new Action Dolly collector sets
Damn right.
are coming out exclusive to B&M stores in the UK, but also, more importantly, they're also coming to the official North American Doctor Who store, the BBC shop, and Amazon in North America.
What about Canada?
They'll be here. They'll be here probably. As there will be as follows. Here we go. They have the companions, the friends and foes of the 13th Doctor set, which have Yaz Ryan and helmeted Jadoon. There's a war game set with Patrick Troughton's Doc and the TARDIS from said story. There is 2 different Dalek sets from the first 2 Dalek stories in the 1960s. There's a Companions of the Fourth Doctor set.
This is the one I'm getting.
With Sarah Jane Smith from Revenge of the Cybermen. Mary Tam wearing the wrong hair, I think, but in the outfit from Pirate Planet, and Lalla Ward's Romana from Destiny of the Daleks. There's a Claws of Axos unit set with Benton Yates and the Brig as well. All these are coming out in June of 2020. Warren, how excited are you about these?
Quite.
Yeah?
Quite.
Yeah. Which one are you getting? All of them? Are you getting some? Are you picking and choosing?
No, I will get the companions, the new companions, and although I'll have like extra Jadoons now, and I'm going to get the 3 female companions from the classic series because I don't have any of them. I have an older Sarah Jane Smith, but I don't have either Romana because I don't think they existed before this, and I don't have a young Sarah Jane Smith. So, and she's in camo, even better.
That's true. Yeah, she's wearing the camo. I think it's the Revenge of the Cybermen
for the unit set. Benton
and Genesis.
Benton and Yates are using the same everything except for the face.
They are clones. They are kind of autons, aren't they?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I was gonna ask because that seems kind of silly to me. Is you can they're just getting double the money for some.
Right, of course, that's
same doll.
So action figures got small in the first place because of the oil crisis. They couldn't afford to make the big dolls anymore. So this is just a continuation of the same cost-cutting nonsense.
Pretty much.
The first Star Wars prototypes were actually based on Fisher-Price Adventure people. And a documentary I saw, The Toys That Made Us, the guy who designed the Star Wars figures had the temerity to slag the Adventure people. I'm telling you right now, old man, you should die.
Well,
how dare you,
Warren? That show was made.
That
show was made about 3 years ago. Maybe he has passed on. Maybe your wish has been fulfilled.
How dare you insult the Adventure people?
Wow. What I loved about that documentary is the arbitrary height that was decided for action figures, because he basically said, I don't know, how big to make them? About this high. Like, he literally
now they're all that.
Now they're all that. That's just the arbitrary figure.
And I rail against ones not being high enough, improper sized.
I know, these are the 5. Yeah, they've stopped the 3.75 inch ones. The ones that are about stupid. That high. So, the ones that would match the Star Wars figures. So these are the 5.5 inch figures, which are the proper ones. As I said, coming out in June. So keep your eyes peeled on the various shops here in North America, because you probably won't have to bootleg them from the UK anymore if you're trying to get them that way, which would be quite lovely. So there we go. The Big Finish has, like, it's I think it's a bank holiday weekend in the UK. And apparently that is an excuse to literally tell everyone about everything when it comes to releases from Big Finish. There's a couple coming this week that haven't come out yet, so stay tuned for that. But the stuff that actually has been announced, there's a whole bunch of Master stuff. Sir Derek Jacobi versus Paul McGann features in the next War Master set, Hearts of Darkness, which is coming out in October 2020. You're looking forward to this one, Danica?
Yeah, when I saw that in the links, I was like, what a combination. What is this? I need to listen to these two just ranting at each other. It's going to be great.
It is. They're good at it.
Because Derek Jacobi was a great master, and we definitely didn't see enough of him.
Really
for
didn't.
The 5 minutes we saw him. And he's good in the other War Master stuff that I've heard.
Mm-hmm. He's a good actor, actually.
Yeah, it's fair. I haven't really delved
so?
into the Big Finish, but I don't know. There's just so much, right? It's basically like trying to watch all of Doctor Who, but like 4 times as much because, hey, they can use the actors forever because your voice doesn't change generally.
I've got so much of a backlog on my app. It's ridiculous. I've got probably 20 full days worth of audio that I haven't listened to yet.
Well, it's gonna grow because there's another Master set. There's a whole set coming featuring Eric Roberts. Master Eric Roberts, of course, having been in the TV movie, which celebrates its 24th anniversary of the original UK broadcast next week. So there's a live tweet along of that with Tardis Monkey, by the way, I should mention. This set's coming out in March of 2021. It also features Chase Masterson as Vienna in that. There's
and anybody else based in Los Angeles.
January 2021 features Masterful, which has all of the masters, all of them, every single, even some you don't even know about, are in this box set with Jeffrey Beavers, Mark Gatiss, Michelle Gomez, Derek Jacobi, Alex McQueen, Milo Parker, Eric Roberts, and John Sim. So goodness me, that also came out as well. And then keeping going with the Big Finish stuff, John Lloyd, who has been a legendary TV comedy producer and was a roommate of one Douglas Adams back in the late 70s and helped produce the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. He actually, at the time, submitted a script for Doctor Who, which was never picked up. But Big Finish is going to make that script into a thing, a full cast audio drama with Tom Baker, Lalla Ward, John Leeson reprising the roles, of course, from season 17. So that is also happening from Big Finish.
They truly are drama archaeologists.
They are. But wait, there's more. Doctor Who meets H.P. Lovecraft. It's a Carl Baker story.
Great. Does he call him a racist?
Coming out in June of 2020. That's this guy. I don't know.
That's exactly what Brandon said, actually, when I told him about it.
Like, if you're going to do that with the first Doctor and Twice Upon a Time, then you better go back and say, okay, Mr. Lovecraft.
You better go hard on H.P. Lovecraft.
Let's have a sit down here and talk about things, because there are some stuff that you need to be told about. But
yeah, and let's rename your cat, because the cat does not deserve that.
I'm not even going to ask. I'll look it up later.
It's bad.
Okay.
I figured as much.
Yeah.
All right.
Moving on.
The Doctor Who annual is it out now? I think it is. It's available to order anyway. The official Doctor Who annual with Jodie Whittaker and her time team on the cover is available to order from various.
I just looked up the name of the cat. Wow.
I don't want to. I don't want to know. I don't know if I want to know.
You can't say it on the podcast.
I don't want to know.
That's good. Oh, the heady days of yesteryear when things were different and bad.
It was bad back then. People knew. People talked to him about it.
Good. Well,
anyway, sorry. We'll stop talking about how racist H.P. Lovecraft is. That's in another podcast.
That's a whole podcast series, I think. What?
It's this new serial investigation into racism of H.P. Lovecraft.
Oh yeah. Well, I wouldn't be surprised if Behind the Bastards has done a Lovecraft or will do a Lovecraft, because that's a podcast that Brandon is obsessed with right now. And it's basically like a deep dive into not only the bad people we know about, but the bad people enabling the bad people. And it's quite interesting, but it is horrific.
Interesting.
Hooray.
Okay.
I can't listen to it because it makes me really angry.
Okay.
But he loves it, and I actually kind of like hearing it through him. I find it very fascinating to kind of get the filtered version. It's by this, what is his name? Robert Evans. He's a legit journalist, so he's very, very good at what he does. And so he's got that, and I think a couple other podcasts. But yeah, if you look him up, he's a really interesting human being, and I think pretty smart and kind of chaotic good.
Interesting. Well, I'm intrigued by that in a way. But moving on from racist cat names to Doctor Who books coming up, the segue of all time. Wonderful books. Paul Smith at Wonderful Book. He's done some wonderful work over the past few years with different books. I have a copy of his classic series DVD compendium. I have been ripping all my classic Doctor Who DVDs to hard drive. I have, if I didn't have a digital copy, the pages of that thing will be worn, ripping through it, looking up the various features and knowing what to name them and stuff. He does wonderful work on his books, and the next one is coming out. It's called The Tardis Chronicles, Volume 1. Basically a deep dive into every single place the TARDIS has visited, but also design specs and everything else, and graphics about the TARDIS props, both the TARDIS interior and the police box props. This type of book is right up my alley. It's coming out from Wonderful Books, I believe on May 25th, I think, but links in the show notes to see all about it on the Wonderful Book website. This I've seen him tease this on Twitter over the past week or two, or maybe a month or two now, actually, and I've been looking forward to this. So good stuff. 412 pages of madness, of TARDIS interior madness that I'm going to devour when this thing comes out. So links in the show notes to find out all about that. And the last bit of news before we get the hell out of here and get on to our commentary is the from BBC Books is coming out in October, The Monster Vault, with all sorts of different stuff about Doctor Who monsters. It's coming out in November 23rd. Actually, it's coming out here in Canada apparently. So from BBC Books. So there you go.
Completely random date.
Yeah, very random. Just like, what did we put it? I don't know. 23rd sounds good, I suppose. Maybe you'll have that book in variant edition. Who knows, Danica, by the time the book comes out, or not. It's up to you.
You never know. I mean, I have some sweet access to book market distributors, right? So when and if and when Diamond pauses for the second wave in America,
right,
I will still be able to get new product. Just not single issues, but I can definitely get like graphic novels and prose stuff now.
Oh,
which is awesome. Yes,
it makes you sound like
come to me for all your book needs
at the Speakeasy known as Variant Edition here in Edmonton. That's
hell yeah.
You should call it a speakeasy. Yeah, I think you should call it a speakeasy. I miss the term speakeasy. I mean, if we're going to suffer through a pandemic, we might as well suffer through all the things of the era, speakeasies and prohibition and everything else, right? I mean, let's just relive it all.
And
like a full 20s.
Yeah, full 1920s. Let's just do it. Yeah. Let's just lean into it.
Followed by a worldwide depression and a giant war. Racist. This sounds great.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the second atomic age, let me tell you. That's what I'm looking for.
But you could sell a drink called Dr. Hooch.
Tying it back around. R.I.P. Dr. Hooch.
I like it.
Yeah. Bring it all around.
Yeah. Thanks.
Danica, this is...
But it's still online. It's still on iTunes.
Yep.
I think we still get people listening to it, so it's kind of, it'll exist in internet forever. So if someone out there wants to check it out, there's like well over 150 episodes to check out. Not 700, but 150.
That's okay.
Plus.
It's not a race. It's not a race, believe me, to get to where...
Oh my gosh, no.
You are, so...
No, we'd be dead.
Yeah.
Because there's liquor involved and we would be dead.
Well done on the accomplishment. Well done on knowing when to call time, and well done on keeping the Variant Edition up and running at variantedmonton.com, right? Because some place in New Jersey stole Variant Edition. So that's right, because it keeps Edmonton in the title, and so it's good to know where your roots are. So
exactly. Yeah. Shop local, right?
Exactly. All right. Thank you very much, Danica, for coming along. This has been a lot of fun chatting with you and catching up, and thanks for coming by.
Yeah. Hey, no problem. It's always fun hanging out with you guys.
Awesome. All right. After the very short break, we dip back into our commentaries again. Planet of the Daleks, episodes 3 and 4, with guest Paul Cornell. Welcome back, everyone. We're continuing on with our Frontier in Space / Planet of the Daleks epic commentary series. And with us for these next 2 episodes is none other than writer and podcaster Paul Cornell. Welcome, Paul.
Hello, how are you?
Well, we're coping, watching Planet of the Daleks on sunny afternoon, which we can't go outside, so it's all the temptations at once sort of hitting us. How are you with affairs right now, Paul?
Oh, well, I have a nice bottle of Malbec, which strikes me as the sort of thing that Tom Baker would have shouted tersely during the Graham Williams episode, a character name, Malbec. or bye-bye Malbec at the end. Because he strikes me as the sort of figure, Malbec, who would be around at the end in one of those group bye-bye things at the end of a Tom Baker Graham Williams episode.
I think probably that Douglas Adams, in his penchant for alcohol, I think probably named a character or two after a variety of wine. So I could totally see Malbec being an excised character from the Pirate Planet or something. Makes complete sense. We're not watching the Pirate Planet today, though. We're watching Planet of the Daleks, episode 3 and 4. I'm sorry to for that disappointment there, Paul, but this was the deal that you agreed to. So
you can have your child back once we're done.
Yes.
Oh, have you got Tom? Because we've had him for the last 6 days. Do you fancy him? Do you want him? Go on.
Do you take him for an hour, please?
Yes.
No, not as such. But we do have Planet of the Daleks episode 3, and that's even better, right? So let's.
No, it's not.
It's really not. It's really not. But we'll do
Planet
this.
of the Daleks episode 3, or my firstborn child. No.
Not even as a joke. Okay. Here we go, though. Everyone, I assume you got your legal purchase DVDs, Blu-rays, laser discs, CD-ROMs. I'm sure this came out in CD-ROM back in the day. No? Good. Here it is, then. Planet of the Daleks, episode 3. In 3, 2, 1, play.
Now, I don't remember what was happening at the end of Planet of the Daleks episode 2. Was anything happening?
Does anything happen at all in this story?
Well, Rebek has arrived and has told Bernard Horsfall that there are 10,000 Daleks on this planet.
Of which we'll see 6, if we're lucky. Maybe 3.
See 6. Yeah, well,
we saw seven together in episode 2.
Wow.
we did, yeah. 3 of them with operators.
And what Rebek hasn't said is it's 10,000 toy Daleks.
That's true, yeah.
That sounds great. 10,000
I don't see
Daleks.
a problem with this.
Yeah.
As a dolly activist,
Yeah,
I'm all for this.
this is your time in the sun.
Or advocate.
It's a Joe Grant line. You're a dolly activist, Warren.
Yes.
Mr. Campbell.
Misplaced priorities, I think those are.
I got to say, I really quite like Planet of the Daleks. I think.
Oh, good.
I saw it having been deeply imprinted with the Terrence Dicks novelisation.
Uh-huh.
And because when I saw it, I had all that extra stuff and all that extra lovely scene setting. It actually felt, I think, quite well written and powerful and pow. And if I think the original script probably is that. It's realised a bit awkwardly and is actually probably beyond what they could manage very well at this point.
Uh-huh.
But I think Terry Nation's instincts are spot on for a lot of it.
And what about the repeated memes that he sort of works in from his previous works?
It's a style. It's
okay.
Terry Nation's a genre by this point, you know.
It's this episode here which is bizarre to me because I think we said this on an earlier version of our earlier episode. When we got the omnibus version in North America back in our youth in the 1980s, they would edit out basically episode 3 because it only existed in black and white, and also any sort of like connecting material in episode 4. So we got like a 2-hour omnibus version, and I never really even noticed the missing bits. And so seeing episode 3 now is very unfamiliar to me. It's like basically a missing episode of Doctor Who.
That was extraordinarily careful and thoughtful of them.
Wasn't it though? I mean, they didn't actually just like chop out what's in episode 3 and just chop out 2 and 4 together. They actually took the time to sort of like edit around, because I think there's 2 back-to-back scenes featuring Joe, and then the next one is them crawling out of the vent, the chimney. But they excised that, so they managed to like sort of work around it. I was pretty impressed retroactively in watching this earlier today.
As far as being impressed is concerned, right now we are watching a black and white Doctor Who.
It's got that sort of pastel thing that the first colorizations have, hasn't it? Looks a bit soft.
Well, to be fair, we are watching the DVD rip and not the Blu-ray version, which I think has been tidied up a little bit more. But
even still, the fact that technically speaking, a color version of this doesn't exist. Like, it's been recolorized.
Molten ice or water, as it's.
But the whole black magic aspect of chroma dots and the fact they can suck color information out of a black and white print is just like that's just like so futuristic.
It is.
Bernard Horsfall really selling everything as always. I mean, this is David Maloney, isn't it?
Yes. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And hence Bernard Horsfall.
yes. He'd never worked without the other in Doctor Who. Four different parts, like in a relatively short period of time too. This was back in the day when he could do that.
And my memories of Terry Nation as a kid are that we, as teeny tinies, always associated the Dalek stories and the words Terry Nation with a sort of hardcore SF thing that actually, because he talked about bacteriological warfare and all these things that felt slightly more grown up. And this, of course, extended into Blake 7, which was the absolute height of that. It felt that was the Terry Nation thing that we thought, oh, yes, that brand is slightly more exciting than the rest of Doctor Who.
Would other external things like Survivors play into that at all?
I didn't get to see Survivors because that was a grown-up thing.
I've started watching that now.
But Blake, wow, well done. I mean, hardcore, Stephen. Goodness.
Listen, in times of strife, I like to watch people who are having an even rougher time of it. So I do
like the fact that Survivors organise a wine tasting as soon as humanly possible.
They do very quickly. It is the 1970s, after all.
It does capture the essence of cosy catastrophe, which is it's the British dream of the working classes having all died.
That's true, actually. It's only the middle class that are spared. And
the
Telford
nice
Thomas.
people, yes.
Yeah.
Oh, and Telford Thomas, yes, the comedy Welshman.
Comedy Welshman. Speaking of genres.
Here we are in some film, I think.
Yeah. Ealing Film Studio, welcome.
Can you imagine that they've built this along, and it's about a foot deep? And can you climb along that? It's rather
impressive. It's rather impressive they made it at a
I'm getting flashbacks to the Daleks, the original.
Oh, well, I can't tell if that's intentional or...
I just think that's how Terry Nation writes. I mean, amazing genius on Barry Lett's part for Genesis to cut it out from under him and say, no, you can't do any of your tropes. What do you do when you don't do your tropes? And actually, it produces the heartland of Terry Nation. It actually gets to the stuff he really wants to talk about.
So much so that nobody believes that it's Terry Nation, but it is Terry Nation.
It really is.
It's not Robert Holmes. Sure, he edits it, but it's all Terry Nation writing that.
I can so believe that. It feels Terry Nation. It really does.
Yeah.
And I think this looks great.
That's on film.
Well, that's what film is for. Throw them into the pit of film.
Yes. Now back in Studio World.
Oh, yes.
Even as a kid, I would... Go on, sorry, Paul.
Studio World looks exciting to me. There's something about the immediacy of video when I was a child.
Yeah.
And the way that the studio lights shine off the domes of the Daleks, it looks immediate. It looks exciting. Like, for me, at the time, CSO was the sign of magic happening.
That still is, really. There's a live feeling to it. It matches the same look as live TV, so it feels like it's happening before you right now.
I mean, that's actually the joy of a lot of Blake 7 on video, that the height of it almost resembles Top of the Pops. That you've got that well-lit immediacy that says this is happening in your living room.
I mentioned this in the last episode, Paul, but what's your feeling about outside broadcast video then?
No.
We see where the line is drawn.
That's where the line is drawn. I love the fact we're getting an over the Dalek shoulder POV look.
That's rare, isn't it?
Yeah.
From camera 2 in the corner.
And actors pretending to wrestle Daleks. It's a whole thing.
And another flashback to the first Dalek story.
Yeah.
But I think this is very well done, though. I mean, David Maloney is trying really hard with this.
Mm-hmm. Actually, as far as actors wrestling with Daleks, I thought Pertwee did a good job there.
Really, yeah. Because he threw himself at it. He really pushed it. It's John Pertwee's ability to sell you with stuff by taking things incredibly seriously.
Mm-hmm. He's an underrated Doctor, I find. Just in his acting ability. I think,
Oh, yeah.
Well, he did win the Doctor competition at Gallifrey One. Was last year before.
Amazingly. Oh. Well, that is to say the death match.
Yes, that's the one.
I think that was down to Rachel Stott trying to work out what would be antagonistic. That looks like Dalek reception, doesn't it? Yeah. Hello, can we help you?
She's basically hiding in the recycle bins that are getting taken out.
Didn't you notice her getting out of the recycle bin? No, sorry, I was looking at this thing.
Yes, looking at the document. Lots of work to do.
Computer says no.
Why? Okay, right. Why have the dial thing so high up?
That they have to look all the way up there.
What function does that serve to have it that high up, other than for us to be able to see it past the Daleks?
Well, it's for all the Dalek artwork that usually is hung up, but they are repainting the office.
Yes, the well-known Dalek artists.
Yeah.
Oh, there's Dalek artwork in the Dead Planet.
That's true. There is. Yeah.
Yeah. There's Dalek statues all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
Ogron artwork in Frontier in Space.
Yeah.
The Ogron is artwork.
Oh, hello. Well, again, this business of being right on the Daleks is a little different. That's quite exciting.
Mm-hmm. I was kind of lamenting a couple of the directorial choices in earlier episodes, but this stuff is actually quite good. Like the level of lighting is very much akin to what he does in Genesis, I thought, when they're in the city here.
Yeah, and that is to say, it all looks more serious when you blaze light at it, which is, not the usual way that Doctor Who works. Mm-hmm. Normally, if you switch the lights off, it's good.
But you know what a Dalek looks like, and you know that it scares kids, so you see Daleks. There's no point in hiding a Dalek in the shadows. Let's see the damn thing.
And they reflect nicely.
They do.
And sneaking about amongst Daleks is such a basic childhood nightmare. And this show does a lot of it. Planet of the Daleks, the scene where they're making their way through the somnambulant Daleks, I think is just... Well, the Terry Nation's real thing, the thing that he does best is, what's a really good set piece? And can we get to that set piece as soon as possible?
Yeah.
And sneaking about amongst the waking up Daleks is just tremendous. And honestly, this is an exercise in getting people way, way lost amongst lots of Daleks, so it looks really difficult for them to get out. It's a very nightmare structure, actually.
Hmm.
One area in which this series is superior to Frontier in Space is that purple outfit.
It's a great outfit.
The purple is quite striking.
Yeah.
He had time to change outfits between.
He did. Yeah, he said, I passed out. Joe's gone out.
His best.
Yeah, I'm recovered from my weird chills that had like frost on my face. I figured that I reasoned that his previous outfit had got a bit gamey. Being
if any Dalek, if any Doctor is going to change outfits because of having nearly died, it's Pertwee.
Exactly. Yeah. What a bad connotations to this outfit.
His green outfit probably smelled of Ogron.
That's true. They don't look like keen bathers.
The water, look out.
But it's no, the molten lava. Oh, wow, that's actually quite effective.
Molten ice, yeah.
Now,
it does look good.
Yeah. Students of astronomy are going to talk to us about Europa and the various incidents we found where there are actually now a different, I believe it's what is it? Is it a different allotrope of ice that that we've found ice canos now.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh. Let's go. Let's visit. Let's explore those places and see if there's maybe a Dalek army somewhere.
I believe that Arthur C. Clarke warned us to attempt no landings on Europa.
That's true. Europa.
I love Katie Manning sneaking about.
Without her glasses.
Can I get a coffee up here? Nobody's been.
It's like a recycling area.
Where is our Keurig machine?
We're fine. How are you?
Yeah. Katie Manning sneaks about like she's in Panto. It's wonderful to see.
She wasn't being forced by John Nathan Turner to do. No, she was in Australia at the time. She avoided all that.
She'd have been amazing in Panto. I wonder if she did any.
Probably at conventions. Oof. It's all very exciting here in film world.
And there's always the slightly cowardly one that we think Tory Nation might sacrifice.
Yeah. And we're right. Hilary Minster.
Oh, from Hello.
Yeah. He's only in this. He's very briefly in Genesis of the Daleks too, I think, as a much more gruff. I think he's the person who kicks Sarah Jane Smith off the ledge, I think. I think it's him.
Quite a few Hello alumni in Genesis of the Daleks.
Mm-hmm. Press them all. Do you dial 9 to get an outside line?
I gotta say, watching this with the sound off, this all looks dramatic and strong and moving and powerful moment by moment to me. I've never understood the dislike of Power of the Daleks. And Planet of the Daleks. I've never understood the dislike of Planet of the
Daleks. What is it? This is more an exercise in like trying to understand why we dislike it so much. We've all sort of been dreading these 6 episodes as opposed to Frontier in Space. But should we, Paul Cornell?
Well, I think if you buy into, what this story is about and the way it goes, I think it actually plays what it's got pretty well. I think it's the fact that it does not connect at all to Frontier stands a lot against it.
Yeah.
That this is not the 6 episodes we were expecting. And this is a rare example, and I have no idea why, of Torrance not joining the dots. That maybe there's a thing of they all think at this point that Tory Nation can't really be touched too much. He can't be edited too much. But a little more radical editing on the first part of this to make it smoothly transit in from Frontier would have been very welcome. And honestly, I don't think Tory Nation cared.
Do you think the overarching, literal planet of the Daleks, the fact there are 10,000 Daleks there, is that enough of a continuation from Frontier that the rest doesn't have to be there?
It's really not. I mean, you'd need a draconian in here, I feel. Mm-hmm. And you'd need...
Or even Ogrons.
You'd need some sense that the universe outside is still the one we just saw.
Yeah.
Which we do not get. I mean, suddenly Thals, who weren't involved in any of the hijinks of the previous 6 weeks.
Yeah. Well, I mean, in Frontier, they specifically call out its Draconians and the humans taking footholds in the Milky Way and nowhere else. And the Thals are from whatever other, section of space.
And the Daleks don't refer to their plan of those 6 episodes either.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, fair enough, Terry Nation just writing the thing he was writing, but then it's the job of the production team to change it, to shove it in. Maybe it's because Terry Nation is just back, and they've just negotiated him coming back after Day of the Daleks, and they don't want to upset him too much.
Well, I mean, I was watching this yesterday with the production notes on. I don't claim any special knowledge. I'm just repeating knowledge that other people found. But Terrence Dicks, Nation wanted to drop all 6 episodes and run, basically, as was his usual way of doing things. But Terrence Dicks did say, let's just do it an episode at a time so we can work it out and see how, because he had written Doctor Who since Daleks Master Plan. So there was some sort of guiding along with it. It wasn't, I wonder, though, if perhaps they were a little worried, given that they had included the Daleks in Day of the Daleks before making sure that they actually had the rights to them, and thus maybe they felt they had to appease Terry Nation. It's an interesting point.
that they owed him one.
Maybe we'll just push our luck too much. But you're right, the connective tissue is very minimal.
Or maybe it's just that every Doctor Who story is meant to be its own thing at this point. That it would feel very weird to have 2 referring to each other that deeply.
Yeah,
because
that's true.
What the Latstick's era doesn't do is put the connective tissue in. It allows us to make our own conclusions about character arcs and things like that. But each serial really does stand on its own.
Well, and Toby had also mentioned that he kind of cut his teeth on the Target novelization of this before having seen it, and how there's basically zero connective tissue whatsoever, no references to Frontier at all at the outset of the book, and so obviously that's a decision that had to be put into place.
With the books, I mean, they're separated by years. And they're meant to be
Sometimes,
individual reads, Mm-hmm. And I think the book does a tremendous job of pumping up the drama and making everything seem bigger. I mean, certainly the threatening nature of the jungle on Spiridon is something I still remember from the novelization, which doesn't really come over in the TV version.
No, it's on video.
And this.
Yeah.
Goodness, Terry Nation, this was ever going to really work tremendously on television. I mean, people putting together stuff and doing things and doing arts and crafts. Oh, dear.
Well, it's just him, in the Daleks, it's the elevator.
Oh, Warren, look.
There we go.
Yes, I know. Look at those delightful dollies.
In the Daleks, it's an elevator, which is easy to do, but going up is a lot harder. But he thought, well, this will sort of subvert that Dalek City escape that I did before. But you're right. I remember reading about this years before I saw it. Once I finally discovered that there was a missing episode in Planet of the Daleks, and wondering how on earth did they do this when I was reading the bit in the novelization.
And here's your answer.
Here's my answer.
But come on,
it's
it's got a rustic charm.
Yeah.
David Maloney must have looked at that and gone, oof. What are we going to do about that?
Yeah.
I know I have recollections of the eye stalk plants being, in my mind, a lot better from reading the book than were realized on screen.
All Terry Nation character names sound like the words you try to make in Words with Friends online and that don't get it.
And it tells you no.
Yes. Codal, is that a word?
That's not a word. It's not even a computer language. Come on. Well, that was delightful, and it still feels new to me enough that 3rd episode that it's the novelty hasn't worn off. So that's great.
Are we going straight
but-
into the next one?
Oh well, we'll queue it up with everyone else, because that would be terrifying if we were to go straight in. One needs a break after each episode of Planet of the Daleks.
I was aware last time me and Liz did the second Dalek movie for Hammer House of Podcasts Christmas special. Mm-hmm. I ended up, I don't know how, about 10 seconds behind her. So she would suddenly go, "Oh wow, look at that." And I would try and pretend for 10 seconds that I knew what she was talking about. And,
kind of like Tegan in Resurrection of the Daleks when the Dalek appears.
Yeah, just like that. Or every other time that she says, "Look," and then we cut to the shot of a door not opening and then opening. Yeah. Anyway, Planet of the Daleks, episode 4. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, play.
If it was a JNT era Radio Times billing, it would be, "Will the balloon go up?"
Probably, but tune in anyway if you.
Honestly, for a master of publicity, those Radio Times single lines are ridiculously uninformative.
Because you have to know what you have to have watched, basically, the previous episode to know what it's referring to.
In just for whatever it's worth, and looking, this is all from the Tardis Wikia. Apparently, Space War and Planet of the Daleks were published back to back.
Oh, were they?
Yeah.
Was that like 76?
But there's nothing to say they ever needed to have been done back to back.
You know, I mean, the very first Dalek book, the first Doctor Who book was An Exciting Adventure with the Daleks, which purposely created a whole new origin story so that it could just be a self-contained story within that book.
I've always loved An Exciting Adventure as opposed to a turgid slog with the Daleks, which it kind of is.
Well, we're currently watching a turgid slog with the Daleks.
Some of us like this. Ish.
I prefer it to some other ones, like, say, Destiny of the Daleks.
Oh, I don't know. There's a nostalgia factor. I don't know. Is that bad? Paul, does nostalgia play into enjoyment of certain Doctor Who stories for you too? Or?
Well, not really. I'm very allergic to nostalgia. Mm-hmm. And this does the classic Flash Gordon serial thing, by the way, of cutting out bits of... adding bits to the cliffhanger from last week that weren't there last week.
Yes. Mm-hmm. This story does not have a monopoly on that, but...
I mean, there are associations, there are emotional connections that I suppose might be considered nostalgic, but, you know, it's... not to do with the age I was necessarily. It's to do with those things that are brought in culturally around the thing that I enjoy. Note the Dalek language on the X's and noughts.
Yeah. I like that they've put their wall scrawl on various things.
Yeah. Dalek graffiti.
Dalek Kings.
One of my favorite things visiting Egypt was we went to, I can't remember where it was, but there was French soldier graffiti from the 1800s. Like, just guys screwing around 200 years ago because they were bored, scrawling things on a monument.
That's why the Sphinx doesn't have a nose anymore.
One of the stones in Avebury Stone Circle has a Roman gladius that he's... The Legionnaire has put the gladius on the stone and cut around it to form the shape.
Graffito tagging. So the Dalek bombs,
Thal bombs.
or Thal bombs rather, they all have varying levels of efficacy. In that sometimes they blow up. Like
that's a very good way of putting
half
it.
a Dalek. Sometimes they destroy an entire army.
I do like that map really attaches to the sucker. David Maloney thinks, let's just make those suckers work for once.
Yes. I think later on you can see some tape on the back end of it, but
I can hold a piece of paper.
in my hand.
And more importantly, they're holding a piece of paper in a manner which that Dalek can never see. Somebody else has to look at it for them.
So look at Katie Manning there, anticipate that the rock's going to fall and hit her head, and yet we all laugh at Matthew Waterhouse for dicily typing on the keyboard before the Cyberman shoots it at the end of Earthshock.
Well, we could just take the line, we all laugh at Matthew Waterhouse and cut it off right there.
That's true.
Yeah, does that just show Katie's a better actor?
Well, no, because she did it too. That's all. That's what I'm saying. We keep dumping on Waterhouse when really we should be.
Oh no, I got what you were saying. I'm just trying to disprove you.
Oh.
And defend. Well, maybe not defend Katie so much as malign Adric.
Well, you always do that.
Priorities.
This is top of the pops right here. I mean,
this all takes serious acting on the part of everybody.
yeah,
What wire pulling the Dalek?
yeah,
out?
the empty Dalek. So, like, all this connective tissue was, even though it's an episode that exists, they chopped out of the omnibus version. I wish I had that on tape. I'd like to watch how they did this now and see where I could see the joins.
It's kind of an obvious thing for the Blu-ray, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
You should suggest that.
well, they've already put it on Blu-ray, so they'll have to wait for the next one, I
yeah.
guess. Yeah,
You just have to wait for the next format, whatever that is.
When it's beamed directly into our brains.
exactly.
Yeah, mental projection, indeed.
We all sit around at the Gallifrey One convention going, yeah, I'm watching the VAM now.
Getting
Deborah
a commentary.
Stanish just turns into a VAM head. She's addicted
talking
to
about
that stuff.
Yeah. Chris Chapman appears just to basically do a director's commentary of the van that's being beamed into your head at the moment. So that was one bomb right there, right? That's basically knocked over a couple Daleks. Gotcha. And there's only 3 of them, but they sure do kind of like, whatever. We got one to spare. Let's use it to blow up one Dalek. Uh-oh.
There's a tear. Oh no.
I'm kind of glad that happened immediately. Oh, that's actually rather impressive. And not like sort of teased and hinted that it's going to go, because I feel that would have been too obvious. It was a very sudden thing, which I feel was good.
Well, if you have too much notice, then they have to try stuff like patching it or something else has to happen.
Yeah. It's good that they had a convenient ladder at the very top of this thing, but no further.
Yeah, he got the very bottom wrong.
Yeah.
Those gloves look awful slippery.
Yeah, they do, actually. Daleks always have rope with them. That is something that also ties in from the Daleks. We always just carry rope.
They're all Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts in their youth.
Great rope binders.
They're always
are the
prepared.
Thals. Ooh. I actually can't tell.
They're trying to give him a noose.
I thought he was trying to hang himself. What?
It's like
I'm not sure how a tunnel can be very 70s, but that is a very 70s
Yeah, it
tunnel.
is.
It's like, you're done for, mate. Better top yourself before the Dalek gets you.
I thought you were trying to save me. No, I'm trying to kill you quicker.
You have too much information. You can't be a prisoner again.
It's a very 70s thing to rely on very thin rope to drag people up.
Yeah. That's Thal rope. That is...
Oh, yes.
Oh, polystyrene rock acting here.
Oh, that's so heavy.
Yeah.
Thal rope woven from their blonde hair.
I regret nothing. Both panting. The subtitles say.
I have to say I have some regrets.
Fill in the blank.
Vis-a-vis this commentary.
Oh, but imagine a child watching this for the first time in 1973. What daring
Yeah, you
do.
wouldn't care.
Oh, gosh, it would be...
Exactly. The daring do is the key.
Yeah.
Are there any actors inside those Daleks even? Are we just looking at...
Well, that one's moving, so I would assume so.
Most of them know.
They have 3. They have 3 Dalek operators, one of which is Murphy Grumbar, which is a great name. John Scott Martin's got
That's
a
a
good job.
fantastic name.
Yeah.
Is Jo amongst the CSI? No, she is not. No, the CSO. The CSO and the CSI. There's a big difference.
CSO Miami.
CSO Miami. Over to you, Graham Burke, for your next Reality Bob sketch.
or your next series for the Dollies, Warren.
Yeah. CSO Miami.
It's just dollies. I do have a green screen for dollies, so I could do shots of. It's got to be old 80s Miami.
Oh no, you got to use blue screen. You got to use blue.
Miami Vice era.
Yeah.
You could probably get some
just the
stills.
opening montage from Miami Vice.
Mm-hmm.
I love Joe's. And then there was. Yeah. Enough exposition, Joe.
Yeah.
Joe, you're hysterical. Slap.
Well, let's sit down and have a talk.
And they'll be busy expositing for a little while.
Yeah. With our thal chewing gum. Or whatever it is. I think it's lembas bread, actually. But
I mean, Terry Nation's efforts to actually do what we would recognise as meaningful drama now in the modern series seem really odd back then. But he's the one who actually has some thought that, well, could we give these guys some tension, some problems, some character? And I think he does it in what now looks like quite a modern way.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of time for Terry Nation. I think that he was kind of a pioneer without quite knowing what he was doing. I think
As many pioneers
an
are.
accidental pioneer.
the best guy to pioneer.
I mean to say he did it by instinct.
Yeah.
And I do think if he'd actually got so far in Hollywood as to become an executive producer on something like MacGyver, which, he worked on, I think he would have done some big things out there. I think he had his finger on the pulse of what popular television was for a very long time. I mean, Survivors was no small deal.
Mm-hmm.
And, for a lot of people, he was the successful thing that came out of Doctor Who.
Mm-hmm.
Trivial Pursuit certainly thought so. They thought he created it.
Yes, it did.
Yeah, and well, exactly that, actually.
Mm-hmm.
That offhandedly, people would say, oh, that name, Terry Nation.
I forget, I mean, Blake 7 was never released on DVD here. I know it's a huge thing in the UK. Like, the ratings that Blake 7 got from the start to the very end of that show were really, really high.
Well, this is why they kept trying Doctor Who against Coronation Street. It wasn't a death slot. It's because Blake 7 had actually taken a chunk out of Coronation Street. That you could put Blake 7 up against Corrie, and Blake would actually hold its own.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that. I didn't know it was going opposite Corey.
Yeah, because it got the fanboys, but it also got a huge chunk of the woman viewership that watched Corrie. It was an ironing board show for my mum.
So you never got to watch Blake 7, then, is what you're saying?
No. I got to watch Blake 7 because that was the ironing board show.
Ah, okay. I see what you mean.
She would do her ironing while watching Blake 7 and miss that week's that day's episode of Corrie.
Gotcha. Here's me foolishly thinking that people did things and watched TV at the same time.
Well, but that's the Terry Nation thing, that with Blake 7 and Survivors, he can make primetime science fiction that can score highly against big-time soap operas.
God, I didn't know that. That is fascinating. Wow. So basically Blake 7, the overconfidence of Blake 7 is what kills Doctor Who in the end.
Well, and the fact that Davison can do it too. You put Peter Davison in Doctor Who.
That's true, yeah.
You put a TV star in Doctor Who. It can take a reasonable chunk out of Corrie as well.
What day of the week did Blake 7 go out?
Now that's too deep for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's on a weekend. January 2nd, 1978, I think is when it premiered. But.
I'm just thinking because Davison, you speak of Davison's era was the first that was put on a weekday.
Mm-hmm.
Well, this is exactly it. They were going for the Blake 7 slot.
Yeah. I never thought about that. How Blake Seven ties into Doctor Who. J&T was a genius.
Moving Colin Baker back to Saturdays is kind of an acceptance of defeat to some degree.
I suppose so, isn't it? Yeah, because they thought, well, we had this time slot. We've taken over midweek television now. We've outgrown the Saturday slot. I don't know what the Saturday slot is in the UK. I mean, now it's mostly resorted to Dancing with the Stars and
reality stuff.
Yeah. Variety things. Basically, it's become Saturday night of the 1970s again.
Yeah. Well, Dancing on Ice and Strictly and Tumble. Mm-hmm. Don't forget Tumble.
I wish I could.
It's interesting, isn't it, that the fowls are blonde, that they have to make Prentice Hancock blonde. And it's kind of like at this point that they are the Aryan ideal.
Oh.
As opposed to the opposite. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a little worrying, but that's, again, the lovely Terry Nation thing that he delves into. It's a little worrying.
Has your opinion on Terry Nation changed over the years at all, Paul? I'm curious if you had an evolution of these thoughts.
Well, yeah, very much so. I mean, in the 90s, he was sort of along with, say, Sloman, the problematic end of Pertwee. You know, we managed to be anti-Pertwee, anti the shibboleths of organised fandom, while still loving Torrance. How we managed that, I don't know. But I still say that needed doing. You know, you really needed somebody to kick over those statues and to say, "My goodness, you think The Demons is the best episode ever?" But no. Since then, I've started to think that Nation, you know, the fact that Verity Lambert cottoned on to him and thought that he was as pop music as she was, you know, and sure, he gets old, but who doesn't? He needs prodding, but when he's prodded, he does Genesis of the Daleks.
Yeah. It's adventure television, you know? I mean, we oftentimes, we're doing it today, we watch it all in one go. And it was never meant to be that way. It was always meant to be a once-a-week sort of thing. And
we did that as kids, too, watching the omnibus versions.
So naturally it seems long and applauding a little bit in places, but it's serialized television.
And I think I remember getting my hands on the first, pirate VHS cassettes in the mid-'80s, and we all were consuming Pertwee as this sort of interesting archaeological artifact. And the stuff that was weird, Season 7, and actually to some extent The Time Monster, all seemed much more exciting than the stuff which was competent week-by-week serial TV, like Planet of the Daleks. You know, Season 7 seemed like it came from an entirely different world to where we were then in early Davison. And it felt exciting and different. But to some extent, stuff from this era, stuff from this season, felt like they knew what they were doing, and knowing what they were doing didn't feel as experimental and wonderful.
There is a certain competence across the Let's Dix era, isn't there?
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like they're almost too good at making this show. That
yeah.
I agree. I've all the eras of Doctor Who, I find that the Pertwee era has been the one that I'm still enthused about it, but not quite as much. It is also the last era that I saw, just the way things worked out. I on the loop around on PBS stations, it was Pertwee that I got to last, and then oddly enough, like the first 2 or 3 seasons of Tom Baker, and that was it. And it does feel like they're really good at what they're doing, but for some reason, it feels like they're not pushing the boundaries, even though in retrospect they really are.
I think that's actually all Hinchcliffe does. They keep everything from Dicks and Lats, and they just push out in a few directions from that. Graham Williams has no budget, has nothing to go on, has to start anew, and so invents his own version of Doctor Who. But Hinchcliffe just builds on what was there before.
Mm-hmm.
You know, Dicks and Lats, the first solid foundation this show has had in years, and that foundation persists for a good decade.
And really gets resumed in 2005 when it comes
Yeah.
back.
Yeah. Because, you know, who do you want for popular television? You want Terrance Dicks.
Yeah.
And Russell keeps referring to those same verities.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, all these moody back projections. This is where it goes wrong, actually. Moody back projections to try and... Because I've been bored for the last few minutes.
I will say, I mean, I know this will upset Warren when I speak ill of Star Trek, the original series.
How dare
But
you?
when I was a kid, I would watch and
oh my god, I don't want to see that. All unimmunized life must die.
The painted backdrops and Star Trek's like Alien Planets, just like I just immediately was taken out of it. I just thought this is just a dumb studio. And it's rare that Doctor Who did that we go to a quarry. So whenever they did planet interiors, exteriors indoors, it just felt like, they've just done Star Trek here.
No, but here's what sells it. The sound that goes
we don't
in the background.
Yeah.
It feels a bit claustrophobic, actually. It feels not as big as it should do.
Mm-hmm.
Well, there were lots
it
of
depended on the
bad
story, too,
sets in Star Trek.
The OK at the gunfight, the OK Corral episode is just terrible to begin with. So then you're like, oh yeah, and this set sucks. But if it's a good enough set, I don't care.
Wow.
I also, we're not on film, so we can't be outside.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Unless you're on precious Obi videotape, but which we're not. Paul pours a Malbec.
Good call, Paul.
Oh, you could hear that. Goodness.
Oh, I know you're taunting us and teasing us right now.
Malbec.
Getting closer to the drinking hour, i.e., any day, really.
Any time of day. At this point,
Who's going to call us on this? Our significant others? That's about it.
Are you kidding? They'll be pouring for us.
Exactly. What do you think they're
Drinking with us.
doing in the other room? Yeah. Bring me wine, woman. Obviously, that's a quote from the Time Warrior and not a way I dress Erica.
It could be both.
Is there going to be another episode of Lazy Doctor Who? Is there?
There is. Despite you contributing to the murder of me on stage at Gallifrey One, there will be. The program will continue. Clouds of Axos episode 4 is still there, waiting to be played.
He'll get to it right after the Chronicles.
The lights out there in the darkness, the eyes of...
Yeah.
Oh dear.
Yeah.
This is not good. This is beyond...
Take that, Vengeance on Varos.
Yeah.
This is beyond a good director's ability to do. Mm-hmm. I think because to do it well would mean all the budget would go there.
True. And if it's just
and they're
a big
only
shot,
there for 5 minutes.
Yeah. I would like one of those cloaks, though. Oh.
I think that's good cosplay for Gallifrey One, isn't it?
I agree, yeah. I would want to wear that.
It'd be easy.
Oh, that's not a great cliffhanger, is it? Zoom
Find
in on
out next week what
purple.
happens to Weber, the character you really hate. Yeah, the cliffhangers aren't the best here.
No.
Which is odd, because I thought Terry Nation usually came up with some good cliffhangers, but he's also responsible for these and maybe even the floor in Death of the Daleks as well.
I don't think he was responsible for the floor.
No.
But kudos to Barry Letts, actually, for including a written by in the closing credits. He fought for that when he came on as producer. And it goes away once he leaves as producer. But he wanted a writer credit in the end credits as well as the opening credits because he thought it was
really
important.
Good.
Yeah. Well, that was delightful, Paul. Thanks
You say that.
Thanks for teasing us with wine. and jumping on board and helping us through 2 episodes of Planet of the Daleks. This will be going out probably a little earlier to the Patreon subscribers, but to the rest of the world in mid to late May. And I know you, according to your weekly newsletter, which I read, there's a lot of stuff you have under wraps that you aren't allowed to talk about. But what stuff can you talk about that's happening in between March and May that is exciting for you to plug?
Well, your listeners will be able to get as a back issue Edgar Allan Poe's Snifter of Terror issue 6, season 2 issue 6, in which I have a Liz baiting story about what if Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde were written by an Englishman.
Splendid.
Which is a comic that comes out from Ahoy, who are a wonderful comics producer, and is drawn by the wonderful Steve Yoel, who I've always wanted to work with, and has a wonderfully dry sense of humour. So I'm looking forward to that. That comes out, certainly your listeners will already have it available.
Yes. And what's coming down the pipe on Hammer Horror of Podcasts, which is a great horror podcast.
Hammer House of Podcasts. Get our name right. Goodness.
Listen, I got Kyle's podcast name wrong, so I'm just carrying on a trend. I'm very sorry, Paul.
How did you get Kyle's podcast name wrong?
He did it. I witnessed it.
I did it.
What was it? The Room of Writers? What?
No, the other 5 rounds rapid.
Yeah.
The Writer's Broom, yes.
Yeah, that one. Anyway, Hammer House. What's coming up, or what has been on the show? I suppose in the next little while on there with you and Liz.
Well, we've just had John Rogers on to talk about a movie very close to his heart, The Gorgon. John Rogers, the creator of The Librarians and Leverage. And we continue towards we're nearing the halfway point in our voyage through all of Hammer's horror movies.
Goodness, and you've done a lot of it. Like, you've been over 2 years now, haven't you, doing that podcast? Wow.
Yeah, we have a bi-weekly, in effect, podcast, because for our patrons, we have a whole other stream where we're talking about the Amicus horror movies.
And for what it's worth, I mean, peek inside the curtains, I'm the one who actually produces said podcast, and I don't actually watch the films, apart from The Wicker Man. We watched The Wicker Man for that one. But even without watching the actual movie, I enjoy listening to you and Liz talk about the movies. So it's a delightful listen.
Argue.
Either way.
We often have a difference of opinion.
Yeah. And that's part of the charm, though. Yeah. Well, that's superb. Well, thanks again, Paul.
Thank you for having me.
For taking time out of our very busy days these days. I feel like we could do a commentary marathon every single weekend now, and I feel people who would jump at the chance to talk to anyone. So maybe next week we'll do Vengeance on Varos. We won't do that, but just to please Jason Snell. It's his favorite classic Doctor Who story for some odd reason.
What?
I know. Shocking. Every story is somebody's favorite. That's how I always look at it. You know,
Even Time Lash.
Oh, we could talk about Time Lash, but we won't. We'll instead sign off. So until the next episode, where we'll be finishing off our commentary for Planet of the Daleks, I am Stephen in Edmonton.
I am Warren Vancouver.
Chris in Edmonton.
Paul in the Cotswolds.
So long for now.
You've been listening to Radio Free Skaro. Find us online at radiofreeskaro.com, follow us on Twitter and Tumblr at Radio Free Skaro, subscribe to us on iTunes, and donate to the show at patreon.com/Radio Free Skaro. Thank you.